Hello folks and welcome back to the stream. This is a bit different than normal. Normally we're on here and we're trying to finish that library scene, and that's normally on a Monday night, but it's November, which means it's Nodevember in the creative world. Now Nodevember is a thing where you're tasked every day with doing something creative based on a prompt that you're given. And you can do that using something like Blender or something like music creation software, whatever uses little nodes to build stuff. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute if you don't know what they are. But I'm going to be doing it in a software called Substance Designer, which makes textures for video games and for films and stuff like that. That's what I know best. I'll have not used it for months, so I'm going to be a bit rusty. But this will be a nice way to ease back into it. So I'm going to show you first. We have this is November. So the idea is that every day for the month of November you have to do one of these prompts based on the different categories, which is great. It's super handy because it's kind of hard to think of what to do sometimes. Now I wanted to do it last year, but I literally forgot about it until halfway through the month, and you can't really. I guess you can start it halfway through, but I didn't want to. That wouldn't be good, would it? So yeah, I thought instead I'm going to do it this year, and the time has come, and here we are. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one because making the materials in Substance Designer can be pretty quick, but it's not always super quick. Like, to get really nice results, it can take a while, especially if you've not used it for a bit. So we're just going to have a bit of fun with it. I'm going to use this window of 2 to 3 hours every day if I can. Most days, so I should say. I also record a podcast with my brother. So on those days, I'm probably not going to stream, but I should still get the artwork done. It'll just be like at lunchtime or something. But yeah, most days I'm going to be streaming for 2 to 3 hours, and we're going to see what we can get done in that time. So you can see the prompts here. We've got food for the first category, then textures, and then time, then nature, then humanity, and then patterns. And each one of them's got their own five prompts each category. So it should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. And today's category, so the first week is food, and today's category is cookie. So I'm looking forward to trying this. So let's give it a bash, shall we? So this is Substance Designer. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a software used to make textures. I've not used it in a long time. I had a quick test before to see if my plan will work, and I think it will. So I'm going to start with a blank slate. Like I said, I've not used Substance other than 5 minutes earlier on today in absolutely months. I'd be surprised if I've used it this year, actually, thinking about it. The pandemic's made everything go so quickly. So yeah, I'm hoping the old skills are still there, you know. Oh, I meant to show you as well. We've got this list here. This is all the prompts that are in November. So there's a lot of them when you're in a list like that. And the plan is, by the end of this month, we should have a little checkbox in each one of those boxes. So I'll show you as an example. Hopefully, by the end of today, we should see a little tick like that on cookie. If we don't, I'm sure we will. But if we don't, then we won't. But the plan is, right, like I said, quick 2 to 3 hours on each thing. And we're just going to have a bit of fun with it. We're going to play about. We're not expecting perfection, far from it. But if there's some of them that I feel like are going in a particularly nice direction, then I probably will carry on with them after November, if you know what I mean. I'll polish them up, get some nice renders and stuff. But we're just having a quick practice, having a bit of fun, having a play about, really. Just relaxing with Substance Designer, because I love Substance Designer. It's a fun program. So, yes, let's get on to it. So here we've got... I normally have this sort of preview cube here. This shows you where the material is going to be. I normally have that on a separate screen, but I can't record it that way. It doesn't let me. So instead, I'm going to have it up here in the corner, which isn't great, but it's, you know, it means you guys can see it, and that's what matters at the moment. And like I said, we're just playing about, so I'm not looking for super perfection. Plus, if I need to make it bigger, I can always do that. I can always undock it and, you know, make it bigger to look at and stuff. Blah blah. See, there you go, big screen. But we don't need to do that. We can just redock it. There we go. So what we're going to do, wait, let me back up a second. It's Nodevember. So these are nodes. These little squares are nodes connected with lines, and basically a series of events makes an end result. That's basically all you need to know. I'll explain more as I go along, but it's just a bit of fun. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to make a shape. By the way, sorry about the playlist today. That the one I was using last time, which was DMCA free, still got flagged on YouTube. So it's a bit of a pain. It's okay now, it's sorted out, but I figured I'd just stick with this Twitch pre-made playlist today. So I have no idea what's on it. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, what genre it is. None of it is information that I know. So Yeah, so I'm gonna, sorry for the wife sneezing. So I'm gonna get a disc here. This is the shape of a disc, and then we're gonna reduce it in size a little bit. There we go, just so it's not touching right at the edge. And what this does, let me see if I can make this really simple for you. Wait, first I need to change this. So we have height scale. You know, I'm not going to explain everything super simply because I don't want to. I don't want to alienate people who know what this is, and I also don't want to try and dumb stuff. I don't want to seem like I'm dumbing stuff down for people who don't know what it is. Because if you don't know what this is, it can be a boring thing to explain. But basically, black is low, high is tall, and we're making height information with those colours. So hopefully that's simple enough. But yeah, so I'm just going to quickly make some changes on something just to make sure we can see what's going on a bit better. Scale 5. DirectX off, tessellation factor, okay. Now, my computer's not that great anymore, so it may chug a little bit. I apologise if it does. But this software is quite intensive on the old CPU, so let's see what happens. But anyway, enough of my waffling. Let's get this plugged into... let's move it over here first. We're going to plug this into height. So really... Oops, you know what? It's been so long since I've used this, I actually forgot how to navigate. There you go. Now you can see here. It's kind of hard to see, but... it's kind of changed the shape of this. See? Because there's white information in the middle and there's black on the side, so it's flattened out where the black part is. That's really hard to see, so I'm just going to quickly feed that into a normal map, which will also help solidify what you're looking at. But it's completely black, so let's put a flat colour in here, just for a second. There we go. Now we can see what's going on, folks. So yeah, that's a little bit clearer. But what we want to do, since we're making a cookie, right? Cookies... I mean, I wish they were, but cookies aren't cubes. Cookies are quite flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the shape that this is using from a rounded cube to a plain high res. And what that does, that puts us on a flat plane on the floor. So we can see we're going to have a cookie shaped item here. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the bits that are black here. We want to make that invisible. So we need an opacity output. So I'm going to do that now. Like I said, I'm not going to... I'm going to try and talk about what I'm doing as I go through, but at the same time, I don't want to explain absolutely everything because you guys are going to be bored with that, you know. So I'm just going to do some things. We're just going to have a chill out. We're going to listen to some music. We're just going to, yeah, relax, and I'll be doing bits whilst I'm here. So yeah, now I'm going to tell it to view this in 3D as the opacity, and boom! Look at that. We've got a little disc with nothing around it, and that's what we want because that's the starting of a cookie, and that's literally one node connecting to the output nodes pretty much. So as we go along, this is going to get more and more complex, more and more well, complex. I was going to say deep, but that's not the right word, is it? Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, to make a cookie, we all know cookies, they're not perfect cylinders like that with perfectly sharp sides. What we want to do is we want to create like a little gradient on the edge to make it slightly rounder. So to do that, we're going to use a non-uniform blur grayscale, which I love using. You can get the same effect with a bevel, but I prefer this because it's just a bit cleaner in my opinion, and you can do more with it. See, this has now got a nice little fall off here, and then this, let's see, this is quite a jagged shape. I'm going to blur that slightly. So blur. Blur HQ grayscale. I always use the HQ one. I know I probably shouldn't, but I always do. I'm just going to give it just the smallest amount. It doesn't need to be high quality, but just something to take that edge off. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that. See here, it was really jagged and gross. And then we just give it the slightest bit of blur. There we go. Just something nicer to work with. So now when we feed it into here, it just gives us a slightly nicer result. So now I can use that, and then I'm going to change these connections to here, and just like that we're starting to get a cookie shape. Oh, it's exciting, isn't it? Now this always fascinates me because this is just a flat plane. This is not a model. So like it kind of blows your mind at first. You're like, how is that possible? It's not a model. And looking at it, but it's not a model. It's just a flat plane, and I love playing with Substance Designer for this kind of stuff. But like I said, it's been a while, so I'm actually really looking forward to having a play about, having an experiment with this stuff, because it's been so long There was a time when I was doing this every single day. Like, this was my Jimmy Jam. This was my main thing. Let's get our cookie reference up. Yeah, this was our main thing, where I was using Substance Designer every single day. And recently that's not been the case. I've been doing other stuff, so it's nice to get back into this. But alas, I shouldn't waffle too much. We've only got 2 to 3 hours to get a cookie done. So let's get a cookie done, shall we? Now I'm going to use a warp node. What this does, this just, well, you might have guessed, it warps the shape of it. So we've got the sphere here, and then I'm going to use what's called a Perlin noise, which is just this. It's like a white noise you get on a TV. If I plug that into that, it uses the black and white information to control how warped the shape is. See, so anywhere that is black stays still. Anything that's white gets manipulated and moved. So that's why these parts are like this. So it's all being adjusted according to the black and white information, and then you can adjust the scale and things to make it bigger and, you know, whatever. So let's just get a little basic cookie shape in there. That's basic enough, and then we're going to feed that into our gradient. And just like that, we're starting to get kind of a cookie shape. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. Let's make this a bit bigger. That's better. It's a bit more cookie-like. I realise I've got reference right next to me. We're not going to directly use that for that type of cookie. It's just, I've got a different cookie in mind. But you know what? Let's go get an image of the kind of cookie I've got in mind, shall we? So that we're not being too ignorant of reference material. Cookie. Okay, here's cookie. I think I can hear our echo saying stuff. Cookie. Put the cookie down. That's a weird cookie, isn't it? I've never seen one like that before. Alright. I'm going to paste that image in our reference, and I want to get one that's like the what are they called? There's a company that makes cookies in England. They're in a red packet, and if I open that packet, they're all gone. I can't just have one, and I forget what they're called now. But I want that kind of cookie shape in my head. But we're fine with what we've got. I think what we've got will do quite nicely. Let me just double check. They're too chunky. Alright, yeah, we'll stick with what we've got, folks. We will stick with what we've got. So, we want to be aiming for something along these lines. But let's face it, it's a bit of fun. We're playing with cookies. Can't be too excitable. That's a bit of a softer shape to it. And then what we can do is we can try and introduce some sort of lumps and bumps and cracks and stuff, because it's quite lumpy bumpy. So we'll go with an old school classic. Let's stick a clouds in there. Can't really go wrong with the clouds. Now, you know, I never really use the I don't use this library very often. I normally use this spacebar thing, but that's when I knew what everything was. But it's been so long, I might actually have a quick look through and try and remind myself of what the things are called that I'm thinking of. There's a certain kind of noise pattern. It's like, I think it might actually be a Perlin noise, but it's like a softer, globbier one. But it might be a black and white noise, one of them. There's so many. I never remember these things. That's fine. I'll stick with clouds for now. You can never really go wrong. So we're gonna make a blend node. Again, I can't see my keyboard, so sorry if I keep messing up what I'm typing. Alright, I'm gonna multiply this on top. So you can see here that this black and white information. The white bits are gonna be the peaks, and the black bits are gonna be the troughs, or valleys, whatever you want to call them. So if we just do that, you'll see, boom, just like that, just like it. We've got sort of an uppy downy action situation going on. Now it's kind of shadowy because we've got this ambient occlusion going off here. This creates shadows in the little crevices and stuff, which is fine, but we don't really want to have that affect it too much right now. So we'll probably leave that at 10 maybe for now, and then just reduce the surface size. This normally when I make materials, whoa. Okay, let's put that back up. Yeah, normally when I make materials, I make them to real world scale, and I'll do like a 4K, which would be a 2K in game, would be like a meter, something like that. Obviously, we're not going to do this cookie exactly to real world scale because that'd be weird. Since it's just one cookie, I'm not doing like a tileable. Although I don't know, see how we get on. If we get time, I might make a tileable with different flavors. We'll see how we get on, shall we? So yeah, I just want to change the strength of this, the radius. Wait, not the radius. What am I talking about? Can you tell it's been a while, folks? Alright, change the height scale. Not so strong there, you. 5 maybe? Like 5's okay. So you can see we're starting to get that kind of, the kind of lumpy cookie-like texture on that, which obviously, you know, it's not great, but it's a start in it. This is the thing with node-based stuff is, as you can see, these nodes feed into each other, and each one affects the next one in a different way. So you gradually build that up. Oh wait, that's because I'm using that non-uniform blur right there. I forgot I was doing that. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so I'm going to blend that on top of this. Let me just readjust. Let me rejig. Let me rejig some stuff. Ooh, that's hard. Okay, so that in there, and then that's what we want to do. So that's obviously a lot tougher now, but we can soften that off in a second. The problem was, right, I've got this blur in here to get this gradient from this shape, but when you add it on top of this, it made everything super soft, and we didn't want that. But we do want this to be softer, but we want to be able to control it individually. So that's what I'm going to do now. So again, we're going to get a blur HQ grayscale. I probably don't need to be using the high quality. I can control it with this quality slider here though, so it's not too bad. And also these aren't for production, so I don't really need to worry about optimization and stuff. I mean, my computer will cry if I'm not careful. So I do need to be a little bit careful with that, but not super duper careful with it. So you can see we've softened it out again, probably too much this time. So let's lower that down and let's just gradually introduce some softness to it. Okay, it looks a bit weird and blurry. I know I've just put blur on it, but you know what I mean. Sometimes it's good to use a histogram scan as well, just to adjust these. Also, I'm going to change the scale a bit, see if that helps us out a little. Mess with the disorder, just to break it up a bit. Now, you know, we'll have a big one. We'll have a big one that affects everything overall. And that'll be quite soft. And then we'll gradually reintroduce more detail to it. So at the moment, I feel this is too detailed, so I'm gonna get a histogram scan. You could do this with levels and stuff as well, but I quite like a histogram scan. It's one of my favorite nodes. So this makes everything black, but that's okay because we just turn it back to the. If you could turn both of these back to 50%. Well, sorry, turn the position back to halfway, and it goes as it was. But then if you adjust it, you can see it leans more towards the white parts or more towards the black parts, and then you can use the contrast to control how refined that is. So this is handy for like later on, for when we want to get these little sort of, you know, knobbly crevicey bits in. We can multiply them on top of the clouds that we had, but we're jumping ahead here. Let's just get rid of that for now. Yeah, let's go with something else. Clouds 2 is too noisy, so I actually might just use a Perlin noise right now. Whoops, not perm. I see, can't see my picking keyboard. Ah. Perlin noise, that's the fella. The one we used before. This one. In fact, if we were being really cheap, we could probably just use the same one. But yeah, I'm not going to this time. Haha. Screw you, cheapness. I'm not doing that. Right. Sorry about all this. Let me just take my... let me turn my watch off. Because I'm going to keep getting notifications on it. It's going to keep buzzing right next to the mic. And I keep forgetting to turn it off. And it's not very professional now, is it? Not very professional indeed. We'll just check everyone's doing. Okay. Everyone's doing good. Right, so yeah, let's plug this into here. And let's just change the scale of this. So we're just getting the initial lumpy bumpy part of it. Okay, and we want to just adjust this with our levels to control how high this is. So at the moment, we want to reduce how much black is in this because it's going a bit too far down. So if I just bring the black slider up like that, it pushes the black more towards the white, and then you start to get the kind of your edge back as well. And we can then break that edge off a bit later. But push that down, do this, refine it this way instead maybe. I don't like that. Undo! Like I said folks, it's been a while since I've used Designer, so it's going to take me a minute to get back into it, ease my way back in to this goodness. I probably don't need to blare that anymore because it's parallel noise, it's already soft. And then we use a multiply here just to multiply it on top. We could use min darken. That gives you like this harder edge, which we don't really want. But we could do that and then chip away at that separately, but I don't really think that's the right move here. I think we are best sticking with multiply. It's a bit softer. Non-uniform blur. Let me just check something on here. The samples, that's it. Samples were low. There we go. I was trying to remember why is this harder, because I thought it was to do with my tessellation. Anyway. Yeah, so we've got that back now. So now it's a softer. We're getting softer cookie-like situation. However, it's kind of flat, isn't it? It's a bit of a flat cookie. I don't know about you, but I want a nice chunky cookie. So what we can do, we can we can adjust the height overall on the material. Because we've got bright white here and dark black, so they're the highest and lowest points you can get on that material. And then we're just adjusting the grey layers in between that. But to control where those white and black layers are, you use the actual material's height itself. So we do that by going to edit in the materials and then change the scale from 5. We could make it 10, but that's going to be pretty strong, I think. Although for this, I think it works pretty well. So let's stick with 10 for now, shall we? Let's stick with 10. Because we're just having a bit of a giggle, having a bit of a laugh. Bit of bloody banter. Now we need to make sure one of the problems we've got is we've got the opacity here is plugged in at the very end, which we do not want. Because that is making it like a ghost cookie. See, we're seeing through the sides of it and stuff. We don't want that. We want the solid shape here. This is the opacity that we want from this warp. So yeah, just plug that in there and boom. There we go. I was wondering why we're getting such strange results, but of course it's my old brain going, you don't know what to do because you've not done it in ages. Well, now I do. Yeah, so that's sorted there, and then we've got the warp back. Alright, so now we've got the initial kind of... Actually, we can adjust these levels now because it's not as bad as it was. It was just see-through. So we can make this... Should we go all the way back? No, not all the way, because see now it's... Yeah, it's still a bit not great. Yeah, so let's adjust the black levels in that a little bit. Okay, so we've got a knobbly bobbly surface. Now we want to start introducing some cracks, stuff like that. So we're going to move this output so it's here. Now normally when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I would do it from the height information, work in the roughness, and then the base color or the albedo. So that's what we're probably going to do with this as well. Now for roughness at the moment, I've just put a flat uniform color in of 0.87 on value, so it's pretty rough, very rough in fact, which is probably not far from where we want it to be for a cookie, because cookies aren't exactly shiny, are they? But for now, it's just fine for a working thing. We wouldn't have it as just one flat color. We'd put some texture in there. But yeah, for now it's fine as it is. So let's just add some cracks and stuff. So yeah, for cracks, I'm going to use again going back to Old Faithful Clouds 2. Was it Clouds 2 I use for cracks? I can't remember. You know, I used to have like a set few things I'd use for other stuff. So again, histogram scan for this bad boy. Back in there, get a blend going. Put this on top of here. I would put this on there. Make this the new end. And then set this to multiply. Again, histogram scan set that to half. And you can see we're getting this kind of like cool, cracky, like not lava-y look, but you know what I mean. And that is just from the basic clouds texture. No, we've not made any adjustments to it whatsoever, but it's already heading in the direction of you know, kind of like the cookie texture. But we want to do the big cracks and stuff, so we'll leave that as a base for now, because I actually quite like that. It's really simple, but I like it. we can always make some tweaks and adjustments to it later on, because that's one of the great things. One of the great things about working with nodes is that they're procedural. They're non-destructive, so you can always go back and change stuff afterwards. So say for example, I want this cookie, like I like how the cookie looks, but I want it to be a square instead of a disc. Then I can just change it to a square, and just like that, it's now a square. And maybe that's going to be some kind of like ground texture instead. You know, there's so many things you can do in this to change afterwards. So say for example, I've got all the way through and I like it how everything's looking, but I feel like the original bumps are too small. Well, I can go back to the original bumps back here and just change them. And see, it updates live. I'm putting it on the screen like an idiot. It updates live around here, see? So yeah, we just do that till we like it. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Right, okay, so we want to have a bit more of an edge on this. I think it's flattening off pretty quickly here, so we can do that. Let's just go check this first. We set this to multiply. No. Right, okay, so one thing we can do for that is we can feed, where it has a non-uniform blur here, we can feed that into a curves node, and that can actually help control the profile. So see, this is kind of hard to explain, but where you've got the black here and the white there is called a gradient. This curve controls that gradient. So see here, you've got black to white and black to white. If I double click this and set it to like a sharp corner, then it introduces a sharp edge onto our material, which you might be able to see very well. Oh, you can't see at all yet. Let me connect it, that would help, wouldn't it? Yeah, see, so it's introduced a sharp edge there now. Whereas if I was to turn this into a soft edge and make it wider, see, it's controlling the edge of this and how it looks because it's got that gradient to work with. So it's a really useful tool for stuff like this. So I just want it to be a softer but taller cookie edge. Maybe something like that, something along those lines. Now we would run into a slight problem here because the opacity wouldn't match up exactly. Actually, no, it looks alright. Yeah, we'll leave that as it is for now. We can always adjust that later. But yeah, with these you can always add extra edges in and make like, you can make really intricate like Art Deco picture frames and stuff with this if you wanted to. So you can get really strange shapes going on. If you want to have like a little valley on the edge of your cookie. Why you would, I don't know. But hey, I don't ask questions. I just give answers. So yeah, it's a really handy little feature. But we're just going to use it to soften out our cookie's edge. Because we want a nice soft cookie. Okay, so anyway, back to the big cracks. That's what we wanted. What's the crack? The big crack, that's what the crack is. Now, what did I used to use for cracks? Let me see. It was called... See, I could use a directional noise and then warp it. That works pretty well. Or you can use cells and warp them. You know what, it's going to sound daft. I'm actually going to use clouds too again. And I know there's one right there I could have just copied. In fact, I'm going to. Oh, itchy ear. Yeah, I'm going to copy this one. And then I'm going to readjust this one because we want it to be bigger. Actually, we can't, can we? We can make that tile to make it scale more, but yeah, let's just have a look. Let's see what we got going on here. So we would make going to make another blend node, and we are going to feed that into this, feed this into this, multiply this on here. We're not going to apply it yet because this is going to be really messy. But what I want to do, I want to get, see the black parts of this. Actually, let's adjust this a bit more. Open up the scale, sorry. Random seed. We want something like this. So we've got kind of black splotchy areas. I kind of like that. So I'm going to use histogram scan that I was talking about before. And then we're going to use this and kind of try and just highlight those sections. So if we get the contrast going. it more that kind of way. Okay, something like that should be interesting to put on top of it. See, we could get these kind of like chunky bits going into it, so let's apply that, see how it looks. So obviously it's too strong, we can just adjust that here. On the opacity of the multiply, or we could use the levels to control it a bit finer, but we're just being quick and dirty today. Right, okay, so you can see you're just getting little chunky bits coming in. These bits, so like that before and that after. Now I know it's not looking like exceptionally brilliant yet, but it's getting in the way of cookies, isn't it? Now we want to get a kind of more of the uniform cracks, like the fractures going on. So what we can do for that is we can use the cells. Cells. Was it cells 1? If we get a cells 1, get old faithful histogram scan back in here. Where have you been? Get back in here. And we want to try and just pinch out some lines like this. Okay, this works pretty well for stuff like that. I clicked you. There we go. So yeah, we can adjust the scale on this a bit. Actually, I quite like where it was. Just adjust the contrast a bit more. Because basically we want to have information to work with, but we don't want it to still be blobs. Because we can also run this through a directional warp or something like that to help it a bit more. In fact, we're going to do that now. Let's go for a warp. I usually use directional warp over warp, but this seems to work well. Now let's use a Clouds 3, is it? That's got the darker... Yeah, Clouds 3's got more darker areas in it, so we're going to use this for this. I always blur it as well before putting it in. Blur. Not load, so put that to 0 so we can see the actual effect of it. And then if you just start to gradually blur that out, it looks terrible, doesn't it? Oh, intensity is still on full. Genius! Yeah, so see, just by adding a bit of warp to it, it gives this kind of interesting, like, baked fractal shapes. If that makes sense. And we can always reduce these dark parts here. If they're too dark, we can just change the levels to bring the black up, just like we did before. Now you find these networks get a bit crazy sometimes, especially if like me at the moment, you're not doing it for a bit. I'm not working particularly optimized. Normally, I'd have better workflows for things, and it'd be cheaper to run and stuff like that. So it would look a lot better because it'd be fewer nodes. But for this, with it just being a purely, this is basically like sketching. It's just comes straight out the head. You lay down whatever idea you have. It's not necessarily the best idea. It's not necessarily the most optimized or cleanest idea, but it's the idea you have in the moment. And so you got to just capture it, and it gets messy. And then you go in later and clean stuff up. That's like a really important art lesson that I wish I learned a long time ago, because I always put like optimization stuff first, and it makes the art suffer as a result. So yeah, let's do this. Blend. Multiply that bad boy again. So now we see we're getting some variety in the types of cracks that we're getting. So if we just set this to the output, see, and we're starting to get this kind of like built up, the built up cracky bits that we like. Now I quite like the fact that on a real cookie those cracks are normally like actually where the valleys would be. Yeah, the valleys, yeah. But we haven't got much control of that right now, so what we can do is we could, let me see, what can we do here? We could invert what we've got here. Wait, no, that wouldn't help. We could add, my goodness, it's been so long. It's been so very long. Of all softwares I've not used in a while, this is probably going to be one of the worst ones to try and get back into. Only because it's not like riding a bike, you know. A lot of things are still there, but so many things you lose. Because there's so many little tricks and tips and things that you pick up as you go along. If I set this to, if I click the button, set it to add. And we'll mask it using this warp from earlier, because that's what the opacity is using. See, so now it still just uses the bits in the middle. So we can kind of use this to add a bit more height. Although I don't want to do that, because this is all white. It's all very white. So what we can do instead? What can we do instead? Let's figure this out. Oh, non-uniform blur. We could go with non-uniform blur. Let's give that a go. Delete that. Forget non-uniform blur. If we plug that into both slots, that then uses the information you provided it with. But if you give that, if you invert the results for, is it the blur map? You know, I cannot remember. Invert grayscale, plug that into that, plug that into that. So now that only affects what's within that region. We want the opposite effect, really. So let's go with that one and that one. No. What am I doing, folks? What am I doing? Oh, God. Anyway, this is what you got to do sometimes. You got to just experiment. Try and get the old fluid going, you know, like you used to. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how it's going so far. I think it looks kind of like a cookie. We're getting there. This is pretty much the base of it sorted. We just want to add some chunkier bits, and then we can add like some chocolate chunks and things like that, things along those lines. And I wish I could remember how we used to be able to get the segments that are there kind of work in from them, if that makes sense. Oh, I know. Yeah, you invert the result, you invert that. Wait, no, what was it called? Direction. What was it called? Oh, I forgot the word. Distance. That's it. Choose distance, I think. Yeah, and then you control where that's going. So we want to do something like that. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. Anyway, yeah, let's not play with that. We're getting too far ahead of ourselves. We could just simply multiply this to this to get our cracks that we've got, and then let's add some chocolate chips, shall we, folks? Let's add some chocolate chips. Let's give this a bit more depth first. Actually, it still feels a bit flat. Set our materials to 15, maybe. It gets a bit mountainous, doesn't it? Let's leave it at 10 for now. It's so different, you know, when you're just working on your own to work on a stream. Like, your brain, or at least my brain, I kind of like forget what I was going to do. If that makes sense. But I think the benefits of doing things on a stream is that it kind of keeps you, doing it, you know, it keeps you in line. What is this song? Rubbish. It keeps you sort of on track to getting things actually finished because you've got a schedule to stick to. You've got people waiting to see the results. Alright, so anyway, cookie time. So let's give us some chocolate chips. So to do the chocolate chips, I'm going to do something a little bit different than what we've done so far. I'm going to use a tile sampler, which is what I use quite a lot of the time. There's a few different tile generation methods, but I like using a tile sampler. You could always use a splatter node for this, I think, but I just trust the tile sampler. It's got so many options to it. Again, it's not the cheapest thing to use. It's quite expensive already when it's empty, but I just like it. It gives me a good little bit of freedom that I enjoy having with it. But first things first, we need to get another shape going. This time we're going to choose a paraboloid. Actually, no, you know what? I'm going to go for a not a pyramid, a cone. Yeah, because a cone's got a sharper point, and chocolate chips have got like a sharp point where they sort of snap off. So we want to get this, and then we want to give it some kind of, is it called spiral? No. It's kind of warp. What is it called? Right, let's go with warp. Give this, and then we're going to try and get a spiral texture to it. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. Oh, jeez. Right, anyway, let's just distort it a bit. So we've got the pyramid shape, we've got the warp. We're not going to warp it yet, we're going to put it on, and then we're going to place it and stuff, and then figure out what to do per thing. So at the moment, this is currently set to just be a grid of squares. We don't want that. We want it to be our pattern that we've given it. So we say pattern input. See, there they are. And chocolate chips aren't that many. Now we could feed our mask in here so that it doesn't affect it. It doesn't really matter that much because we're going to be adjusting that, but let's just, for the sake of this, give it the mask. And if we tell it to fully use that mask, I think I remember. Mask map threshold. There we go. So now it'll only place things within the area that is the area that we've told it with that mask. Now this is obviously no cookie is that perfect. We want to have bigger chunks and we want it to be more random. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the amount to, like, I don't know, 6, 7. We want it to be a round number because then they'll be even. 6 might be about right, and then we want it to be random in rotation and random in position. And scale, actually, a little bit of scale random to it. Set the scale to 1. Adjust the scale random so they're not all exactly uniform. And then position random. So it's still observing the mask. See, they pop off when they get near the mask area. Now you get a problem here where you get a lot of like intersection with things touching each other. We don't really want that because chocolate chips don't really do that. But what we can do to fix that is kind of offset it a bit, and then we can mask random as well. So if we mask random down here, it starts to, I didn't click it, it starts to pop them off. So they're not so common. And you can also adjust the mask that it's using for that as well, which is kind of handy. So let's just adjust this a bit more. So we get not as much intersection. You can adjust the kind of offset it uses as well. So at the moment this is horizontal. We change it to vertical. That just gives us a bit of different control to use. It's not always the best. Sometimes what I find helps, if you've got like a lot of things that you're trying to scatter about the place, is to do 2 tile samplers. Use half the amount on each one, and then you get more control over where each group is. It's a bit better. But something like this should be okay. Let's maybe bring a couple more back in. Maybe not. Okay, so that'll do for now. We could also use a distribution map to control where these are happening. So, for example, if I give this a, I keep using clouds, but that's what we've got right now. Actually, no. Let's give it another Perlin noise, not another perm. Oh, I keep doing that. Perlin. If we give this another Perlin noise, right? Set this quite big. Set this to pattern distribution input. And now what that should do is that'll help them be positioned based on where that pattern is. So if I change this to distribution map, and then where is it? Pattern input type, input distribution, position. Is it displacement map? Oh, displacement map input. If I use that, then I can control how much that is influenced by this. See, they're all moving based on the black and white information in that image. So there's a bunch of different things you can do to try and help combat this issue that we've got. You can also plug in a vector map, which is like a normal map, and that'll help it as well, but we don't need to do that. Actually, it was okay where it was, I think. Where did I change? There it is. Random. Yeah, that was okay. So let's just, for she's and G's, let's blend this back on top of here. I'm going to use add this time. Not add, max lighten, add. I can't remember. Yeah, use max lighten. That'll kind of vary it. We can also use height blend. The height blend's probably better for this, but let's just do this anyway. So now, you can see we've got the startings of chocolate chips. Obviously they're not chocolate chips right now, but we've got a starting point of something that could become chocolate chips. And then we can control the height of them with a levels coming out of this, or we can just do it manually. Oh, actually I'm going to save right now. Don't forget to save, folks. I definitely forgot to save just now. I've been going for 48 minutes and I hadn't saved yet. That's not a good idea. Yeah, so we want to adjust this a bit. Now, what we can actually do, I've just remembered, there's like a 3D shape generator. There it is. Shape extrude, that's it. Oh, it's all coming back to me now. Very slowly but surely, it's all coming back to me. And this is a 3D shape. It uses the height information. So we can, if we set this to custom input, we should be able to give it this shape. And it will extrude based on that shape we've given it. I said custom input. There we go. So it's not a great shape, but it's trying. And this will kind of calculate the rotation and stuff of a shape for you. It's kind of interesting. So you can set it to straight, or for gradient or mask, we just keep it straight for now. And the height you control from here. Sorry, my PC's going so slow. Right, let's put these in, see what happens. So now I've got this shape instead, but we can go in here and we can adjust this shape to be more like side on. See, something like that. So it's obviously it's not great, but it's showing that you can do that. Let's adjust the bevel curve on this. Because the point is with this, the reason they're all facing different directions is because we've got rotation random on the tile sampler, which again, it's going so slowly, but see, they're all rotated in different ways. If we didn't have that rotation in, they'd all be the same position, and we don't want that. Let's make some adjustments to this shape actually. We might be able to make it more of a paraboloid and then play with the gradient in levels. Okay, so it's a bit softer. And then we can play the bevel height. Scale. Gotta say, so far this playlist is pretty boring. Twitch, get your stuff together. Mirror bevel. Oh, I said it's for double ended and stuff. We don't want that. Okay, now I'm sure there's a way of spiraling stuff. I just can't remember for the life of me what it's called. Right, anyway, for now, we've got the kind of, it's reminiscent of a chunk, if you know what I'm saying. I might actually change that back to, oh no, we're going to use curves, aren't we? So let's adjust this. We want it to have a sharper point up here. Oh, that's a chunky boy. Okay, so now we're basically flat on the top of it. So if I put in another point here, that makes it look real weird. We're going to change the shape back to a cone. And we'll see if we can use curves again, but this time we're going to try and flatten out the middle a bit. See, so we're keeping that pointy part, but we're getting like a more rotund middle section. That's the kind of thing we're after. We just want to reduce how strong the black part is, so we can reduce everything in here, but I'd rather control it with the levels, because then you can control it a bit cleaner with this. Sorry, we want to reduce the white. So see, the point should start going down. Problem is, we also start losing the middle. So we just pull the actual white section down. Wait, black section. Oh my god, it's been ages, guys. Okay. So I know it's all looking weird at the moment, but trust me, we're going to get somewhere with it. It just takes a minute to get there. Right, so we have something like that. Just reduce the strength of that a bit. Okay. Didn't make that, so that's interesting. I keep misclicking as well because it's been like, yeah, I just keep misclicking, which isn't very useful. Okay, so let's give our Chucky chips just a little smidge of a warp. Whoa, it's an expensive node. Really expensive node. Got a very dry throat, folks. Sympathize me. Alright, so yeah, we're going to quickly just warp this, see how that goes. Alright, we're about 55 minutes in, so we'll stop messing with this soon. Start looking at the colours and things. Like I said, this is just a fun little challenge, a couple of hours. Speed challenge. This will get better each day as we go along, as I get more and more used to the software again. Because it's kind of like trying to ride a bike again, but all the instructions for the bike are in a different language. You know, so it takes a bit of getting used to again. I just wish I could remember this spiral thing I'm thinking of. Once another name, I'll be fine. But yeah, anyway. Now we want a directional warp this time. We want to... Wait, I've already used the warp. Directional warp. And then I want to give it a... What am I going to use for this? I could use the directional scratches. Actually, I can use creased. Let's try creased. And we can always blur this to make it a bit softer. Blur. See, so it just reduces the strength of it, because if you don't reduce it, you'll get like harsh lines where there's where the warp is happening. So if I do this and I give that something, oh, it's not defined enough for it to work at the moment properly. So if I put in a histogram scan in here, just like we did before, just bump the numbers a bit. So now it's got much stronger information to work with. And see, now it's more specific. See that? Rather than pushing the whole thing, it's just sort of chunking out part of it. And I quite like that. That kind of gives it a bit more variety. Now I know chocolate chips are kind of smooth as well, so we probably don't want to go fully lumpy like that, but let's see how it looks on first, and we can make adjustments, can't we? Why is there a warp there? Okay, anyway. Okay, so it's looking a bit better. It's getting kind of lost because it's hard to see without the colours there, but that might be a sign we need to make some adjustments. Delete that. So if we wanted to introduce some flat segments to this warp, we could actually blow this out a bit more. And you'll start to get flatter parts where the white was. But we don't really want to do that. It doesn't look great, so I'm going to undo that. That's more like it. Just a bit of chalky. Lovely bit of chalky. So the distribution isn't great on this because it's all kind of one-sided. So let's just see if we can tweak this a little bit just to get something a bit nicer going on. I like the position of that, but I don't like the fact that it's all the same direction. We can change that in a minute. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, I find that a lot of Substance Designer stuff is just playing about until you're happy, because you can't know every node inside and out. You know, you'll know a lot of them by the end of it, but yeah, you can't know them all. Let's give this a bit of a global offset because I kind of liked what it was doing, but I didn't like where it was positioned overall. Now I don't like it at all. What's happened? Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay, so now offset this to the left. Right, let's adjust our rotation random now. Oh, I forgot. Right, there's rotation random, which kind of does it on angles, which is handy for starting point, but then there's also rotation random down here, which is the more specific rotations, and you can use a map to control which parts get rotated and stuff like that. There's lots of extra little bits you can do, but yeah, that's like that. So I'm gonna go back to where I was before and I'm gonna reposition stuff. Okay, something like that seems okay for now. What we can do, whilst normally I wouldn't do colour stuff till the end, but since we're trying to do this quickly, I want to kind of do it as I go along just to see how it's looking, you know, because then we can make adjustments based on how it looks in the end. This isn't going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's just going to be a fun, goofy little material we've made in a couple of hours. So I'm going to just go quickly eyedropper that colour for now. Actually, what I can do, let's see, we can take the information from our height information here and we can make colours based on that. So if I, actually, should I do that? No, what I'll do first, I'll grab into the clouds. You want to think I'm sponsored by clouds after this. I'm going to change the scale to something smaller. Adjust the disorder a bit, something like that, and then I can feed that into a gradient map, which that lets you control. It basically lets you change everything that's white. You can make a different color. Everything that's black, you can make a different color, and it will change all the colors in between to match, which is really handy. And it's got this handy little tool called Pick Gradient, which if you click on that, you can draw a line. Which I don't know if you can see. I'm on my reference picture now. I can draw a line through the cookie. And it will pick up a bunch of colours based on that line that I drew. And you can just reduce how strong or whatever it is. Now obviously this looks kind of weird. I never really like the results it gives, but it gives a nice colour range, and I usually get that, and then I'll maybe blur it out, or I'll adjust the source going into it. Because the good thing about this would have been a node based workflow is I can adjust it still, so it looks like this now, but I can go in here and I can add a blur to this. And it will adjust the results, see? So that's, obviously it's not nice, but it will adjust it based on what you're after. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to blur the results afterwards. And I don't want a grayscale left, that do I? Because it's not a grayscale anymore, it's a colour. Moved into the world of colours, folks. The wonderful, wonderful world of colours. So yeah, let's just reduce this a little bit. Because we just want to get a bit of that jank off it. Plus, to be fair, this is going to be buried so deep into the material you won't notice anyway. But let's plug that in. So we're starting to get some colour variation going on. And if there's bits you don't like particularly of the gradient, you can just go in and take them out. So I'm not liking this kind of browny red ring going on. Or this light part. So let's get rid of the, I think it's here. We can just click that and then click on that. Get rid of that. And get rid of that. Yeah. It's a bit better. Now we can just go in, add parts on top of it. I want to increase that blur a bit because I actually just like it being a general colour base rather than specifics. There, that's better. So now we can go in and we can add the specifics in on top of that. Let me just go and adjust this a second. There's a part here that's really dark, I don't like it. You can also just adjust the colours, by the way, you don't need to just delete them. The problem is finding the booger. Sometimes it's not particularly easy, but you get an idea of where you're at by what you've already clicked on. There you go, so boost that guy up a little bit. Just something like that, nothing too crazy. And then from there, we can use the height information we've already created to colour the parts of the texture. So for example, on this cookie here, you've got like this kind of slightly, it's not a burnt edge, but it's darker because it catches quicker on the edges. So we want to get that same effect on ours. So what we can do is we can get the one that we used to control the curve, this. We can use that and we can invert it. Actually, I'm going to use this one because I like it's wider. Use that, invert it, and then use that as a mask to control what we've got so far. Now what I normally do for these kind of things is I'd use a blend node and something called an HSL node, which is hue, saturation, lightness. And so if I get that and I plug this mask in, where are we? This one. And then I want to invert that, so I click it and go invert grayscale. Whoops, yeah. So now what this does is this will gradually give the drop off from here to here of the result of this. But this is just the same thing as this at the moment, so it's like, what result? But I can adjust these sliders to make it darker, just a little bit. And now you see we've got a darker edge. Now I can use this here to mask that off if I wanted to, but I don't want to. You're not going to see the result of that. If I just plug it into here, there you go. So you've got a slightly darker edge. Now I don't want it to just be darker because the actual thing isn't just darker, it's also got more of a reddish orange hue to it. So we want to adjust the hue as well. The saturation as well, sorry. So see now, it's kind of hard to tell on the screen, but yeah, we're getting like a more of a saturated look to it. I'm actually going to adjust the lightness a little bit. It's not really darker, it's just kind of more saturated, so I've adjusted. If I make that really extreme, you can see what it's doing. So yeah, if we just give it a bit more of a crisp edge. I realise it's a bit extreme right now. We're going to just keep twerking it. We're going to keep tweaking it and working into it. Put the cookie down. You put the cookie down. It's my cookie. Yes, I'm just going to keep working into it. But what we're going to do first is separate the chocolate chips so we can actually see them, because that's always helpful, isn't it? So I'm going to get a blend node like we did before. This time, instead of an HSL, I'm going to grab a uniform colour. Because this chocolate is just going to be brown. We can add some variation to it, but for now, it's just going to be a brown chocky. So let's make it a darker brown chocky. I like a dark chocolate. Slightly desaturated. And make it more towards... There you go, that's more of a chocolate colour, isn't it? So put that on there, and then what we can do is we can use this to control where that chocolate colour will go. Now the problem is, because it's blended in, you can't really select that part too well. So what we can actually do, instead of using this normal blend node, I'm going to use a height blend node, because that actually gives nice results anyway, but also it gives you a mask to work with, so it separates the bits out for you. So let's put this in here. Height bottom. Height top. I think I've actually got them the wrong way around. But you can see double click at both of them. Almost identical results, except this one gives you a height mask. See? So if I get that and I invert it, everything that's there is chocolate. What happened? Oh, hello. Thank you for the follow. You can see how many follows I get by being surprised by what actually happened then. Yeah, okay, so yeah, if we do that, we've got the mask going, and then that gives us something that we can use to colour our chocolate with. So let's do that, shall we? Get this one. I'm going to put this result into here so that we've got our results from it, and then if I use this mask, put it over here, we've got chocolate in the right places. Now if I just grab that there, boom. Just so that we're starting to get some kind of chocolate action going on. It looks weirdly purple. Oh wait, I know what it is. I've got this thing, this PBR albedo safe color node. It just makes sure that everything's in the right kind of range for what it should be. So it kind of kills a lot of stuff. See here, everything's yellow. That shouldn't be there because I won't bore you, but for correct colors in RGB, you're not supposed to go into certain values. So yeah, and this is, but that's okay. We can just adjust it, can't we? And this was a repeaty song. So if we change this to 30, that's fine. Just increase the tolerance on this. There we go. Right, yeah, so we're getting a little bit closer. Right, so next up, what we're going to do. So we've got a bit of colour in there. We want to colour the cracks, the stuff that's in there a little bit. Give some variety going on. So what we can do for that is we can grab this here, the stuff that we're blending in, and we can use that to mask stuff out. So let's do that back here before we add the chocolate, and then blend. And then again, like before, we can get an HSL node. We could just multiply it on top. I don't really like multiplying. It gives kind of like washed out results. Desaturate that a bit. I'm going to darken it a little bit. And then we want to put the results of this up here. And we want to invert that. Obviously that's way too desaturated. See, that was, we also get stuff going from the ambient occlusion map. And we can also use the normal information to help drive other stuff if we wanted to. Yeah, we're not going to get crazy with this today. One thing we do want to do though is we want to adjust the roughness of the chocolate chips. I'm just going to quickly adjust something though, because I don't like the fact that that's right on the edge there. That's just, it's damaging it, you know? We don't want that to happen, do we? Oh, that's right. If you click on a node and press D, it'll shrink it down to the size of next to it, which is nice. So, let's go and adjust this again a little bit. I don't like the shape of the bottom of that. Can we mirror that? That doesn't work that way, does it? I can't for the life of me remember how to fix that. Okay, we've made them shorter. Give them more of an intense warp, so we've got some proper knobbly bobbly stuff going on. What we don't want is this kind of soft edge going on here, so let's see if we can fix that. So that's probably a result of this here. This height mask. So let's just have a look at this, see what's going on. So you can see we've got like grey information here. We don't want that to be grey, so we're going to add a histogram scan to this. And that's just going to help us sharpen up the edges a bit. So put that back to the middle so we can see what's going on with it. And then we can adjust the level of the contrast. And see, it just fills out the white sections. And you can see in our picture, it will start to get more severe. It's not perfect at all. But it just helps, you know, it helps it a bit. Goes fill it out a bit like that. Now one thing I want to do with this cookie, with the chocolate, is we're going to make it the chocolate shinier. So to do that, we've got a roughness map here, and the roughness is just set to uniform color of 0.86, which, like I said, is really rough. We probably want it a little bit lower, to be fair. But yeah, the actual chocolate itself is pretty shiny. It's it's not tempered chocolate, but you know what I mean. It's got that kind of look to it, the gooiness. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this. This is our base color. I'm going to just duplicate it. And I'm going to make this a shinier color, which is less rough. Less rough is shiny. That's how it works. And then add a blend node. And then I'm going to put this there, put that there. And then I'm going to put the mask that we just used up here to good use down here as well. I may have mixed those two up. Yeah, I have. I always do that. Yeah, the thing that's in the foreground gets affected by the mask. So then if we do that. And now you see we've got shinier chocolate. Yay, shiny chocky. So it's a step in the right direction. Our cookie is looking really weird at the moment though. Let's add some actual different colours to it. This saturation is too strong. And this colour here is too saturated as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to open the gradient map. Actually, that's a bit messy. I'm going to add an HSL node after this. I could go into the gradient and adjust all the saturations, but instead I'm going to use an HSL node and just adjust it in one slider here. It's a little bit simpler. Not loads, otherwise it looks washed out. Like if you go like that, it's like it's a grey cookie. Nobody wants a grey cookie. But yeah, something like that. We can always add to it then, can't we? Now some of these crevices are looking a bit too deep there, so let's go and just make adjustments to that, shall we? The crevices are here, I believe. Yeah, so let's grab this. We could just adjust the multiply on this. It's kind of a cheap and lazy way of doing it. Actually works pretty well for this, so I might just do that. You see, with, we just want it so that this part isn't blacked out. That'll do for now. Now I want to get some more sort of, I don't know, I want to get some more like rounded distortion going onto this. I'm not liking how constant it is. It looks really old school 3D right now. And we don't have ages left, so let's do what we can do in the time we've got. Now I want to adjust this as well. The edge that's on here. No, not this one, sorry, this one. I want to have a bigger gradient, but I don't want to mess up the map, the original map here. So what I'm going to do is the same thing I've done here with the curve. I want to see if I can use that too. Actually no, I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to make it bigger. So I've plugged this into here. That shouldn't make a difference. And then if I use this and control the intensity of this, I'll get a bigger curve to work with. So the results should be more intense. It's kind of hard to see, but if I take this off, you can see it there. It's really hard to see, isn't it? So maybe we do a bit more with this. Oh god, no. You know, folks, I'm really hot. And when you're really hot and your brain gets really foggy, that's what's happening right now. Oh wait, I have a fan. Is it plugged in? It's even plugged in. Let's turn it on. Hey, that helps. I knew I'd forgot something. Ah, it's so much better. Alright, so yes, we've got that. It's looking a bit dull, so let's expand this a bit more. Let's really push it. This sounds like the music they play in Cyberdog. Right, so we've got a bit more of that going on. Nothing drastic. That brown is looking pretty purple again, isn't it? Let's adjust that. Hey, thank you for the follow. So yeah, we're going to adjust the colour of this a little bit. I think it's just currently too saturated. You know, for now I'm going to bypass my thing. Just so that we can get... Look, we're going for speed, we're not going for accuracy. So let's just bypass that. Alright, so we're getting somewhere. And like I said, I want to get more sort of lumpy bumpiness going onto this, so I'm going to go back onto my shapes here. And I'm going to introduce some more lumpier stuff underneath. Should delete this. Okay, blend. Let's get another Perlin noise. You know, it's funny, I hardly ever use Perlin noise. I've used it so much today. Maybe try something else. No, you know, it's been good to us. I keep clicking perm. I don't want to keep clicking perm. Perlin noise. There it is. So reduce the scale of that. Oh, actually, what we can do, if I use that height blend node again, there's a cool feature that that's got, I think I remember, where it can blend between things with like a slope scale. Let me just mask this off. Was it not height blend? No, it's not height blend, is it? What is it? Shape blend? Is that a thing? Shape splatter blend, that might be it. God, you know, you go away from it for 1 minute and you forget everything. Time to relearn, folks. No, that's not it. That's not the node I'm thinking of. What is the node I'm thinking of? Slope black. No, it's like slope background. Something like that. Anyway, we're just going to go for a standard blend for now, I guess. I'll do some research before tomorrow, I guess. And then we'll figure it out from there. Because, like I said, I used to know so many cool little tricks and things in this. And it's just been so long. It's honestly probably been about a year. And I wish I could remember. Really do. Right, so anyway, we just want to add some more lumpy bumpiness to this. So, if we set this... I'm going to set this to multiply again. Change the random seed of this first to make sure that we're not in the same spots as we were before. It's not really adding a load of difference, but we can play with the disorder. You see, it kind of adjusts how like rounded and lumpy parts are. That's kind of what we're after. I also want to adjust the frequency of these kind of sharper bits. I'm going to smooth them out a bit where these lumps are, so I can probably use this as a mask to control that. So if we go back to where that was that back here? Yeah, I think it was back here. Now I can use this. Let's see. I could just plug it straight to the mask, but the problem with that is that you've not got much control then. But if I use a blend, I plug this in, and I plug a uniform color in, which is like white. Then I can use the mask to go between them two, and that gives a little bit more control. It's nothing special, but it gives a little bit more control. See, so now I can choose how sort of washed out that is or not. So rather than getting that feeding into this, I can get this feeding into it. And it's just a bit nasty, but then we can control it with the mask. So yeah. There's one I used to use all the time. What was it now? Soft light maybe? So we're heading towards cookie territory, but I'm not liking how sort of like 90s 3D this is looking to me. So let's see if we can adjust the main body shape a bit, because at the moment we've just got a very slight gentle warp to it. I want to make this a bit more extreme. It's still pretty gentle, but it might do the job. The strength of this with the levels, that should help influence how much of an effect it has on it. I mean, I could always adjust the intensity as well, but we don't want to go too nuts with it, do we? Well, let's layer up this albedo a little bit because it's looking a bit. Yeah, I'm not. I think the main thing I'm not liking is the albedo at the moment. Also, we want some more porosity. Porosity, is that a word? Porosity. Like, I kind of like these bits here. We've got bits of that going on, but not much. But at the same time, I kind of like that they're not there. Let's just see. Let's add a few and see what happens. Okay. I say a lot, don't I? Apologies. So we want to save this to last because that's when the chocolate chips are introduced, and we want to work underneath the chocolate chips. So let's make a blend. This time we're going to go for black and white noise, which is BNW. I'm going to go for number 2. Now see, this has got a lot of quite contrasty small pieces to it. That's the kind of thing that we're after. So we can use that. But we can actually mask some of that out if we don't want to use it all. But out of interest, I want to see what happens if I use this on min darken. Just tone that right down. If you use min darken, it'll darken the lighter parts. Just like if you use max lighten, it will primarily focus on the darker bits and lighten those up. So yeah, it just depends which kind of area you want it to work on. But let's just try this. Okay, hate it. Officially hate it. Min darken instead. Yep, hate that too. But that's just because it's so contrasty. We can adjust the scale on that some more, and we can blur it a tiny bit. But honestly, I'm not liking the overall effect it has. So let's try multiply instead, because it covers the whole. I'll like blanket the whole thing then. It's a little bit better, but no. We can keep that for like macro detail, I guess. And because it's multiplied, it'll react differently based on the patch of light that, or dark that it's on. So if it's already on a pretty dark area, it won't get much darker. If it's on a light area, it'll get quite a bit darker. And we can adjust the strength of that as well on the blend. So just give that a little bit, just a little bit It's not much, but it breaks it up a bit more, you know. And we could always blur this out to spread it out a little bit, but I don't like the idea of that. That looks a bit weak though. Let's just adjust that to be stronger. Alright, you know, I'm going to try a quick blur. Just a quick one. Just a quick one. If we don't like it, we'll take it off. How's that sound? It's intensity off first. Very, very teeny bit of a nudge. Is this too tiny of a nudge? There you go. It's kind of a bad habit of mine to always use blurs like a little too much, I think, so I'm trying to get out of doing that, but sometimes it just helps when things are too kind of gritty, you know. You just want like a softer, that's a bit better, a bit just softer, smaller detail to it. Right. What next, folks? What next? Let's see if we can just expand this out a bit. That's a bit better. That was my knee. Sorry about the cracking sound. Okay, now the thing is with chocolate chip cookies, you don't just get the chocolate where the chips are, you get it running through the dough sometimes as well. So like, especially with these softer ones, you get like more bits running through. Like they're probably just chips that are underneath the dough and melted, but still, it looks kind of cool. So maybe we can try and introduce some of that to it. Because this is more of a drier cookie, so it's got more of this kind of cracky stuff going on. Whereas this is like a softer cookie, so it's got more lumpy bumpy stuff going on. We've kind of ended up with a weird hybrid of both. But yeah, I need to add some depth to this. It's bugging me how flat this is. So where we've got these cracks, we're going to make darker. So let's find the cracks. There they are. Wait, how did I do that? Yeah, I did that and it didn't look great. Let's push it further. If it doesn't work well, do it more. Desaturate it slightly. Let's also push up our ambient occlusion a little bit, because I lowered it right down before because it looked weird to start with, but now we can probably add a little bit more height to it. Oh, not that much. Oh, Nelly. $10, maybe 15. Okay, we're getting into cookie territory. It's far from perfect, but we're getting there. You know, for a refresher thing that I've not done in ages, it's not too bad, is it? Sometimes you've got to forgive yourself for not knowing exactly what you're doing every moment of every day. Because I've got a habit of doing that. Like, I should know everything right now. Well, it's been a while. Sometimes you've got to give yourself that. Now, if you find that your shape's adjusted too much based on your original mask, like I've got here, sometimes you can go in and make adjustments to that to help fix it and your opacity. Now we've got some sort of shape changes because of the warps and things that happened afterwards, so I'm going to have to make adjustments here. Now to do that, it's quite difficult, but there's always a way. So if I try and figure out where things started getting a bit wobbly here, so because what the problem I've got is, see, like I've got here, there's my opacity map's cutting out from where everything else was. Oh, it might be here. Perlin noise cut in a bit. The good thing about this is you can step through and see where things went. So here we're getting a bit of a chunk situation going on. Yeah, see, just then it snips off. So we want to be able to get this mask and combine it with the other mask. I think that could be the solution. I could be waffling nonsense. I'm feeling really warm right now, so I'm probably talking a good bit of gubbins right now. Right, so if I add this warp to this, go to add. So now that adjustment should be filled in. So that was the original mask. That's the new mask. It's very little difference, but it's a difference, which should hopefully fix some of these bleeding problems. Sometimes the opacity doesn't update either, so you've got to do view and then opacity. Nope, okay, just something else. Alright, we'll leave that for now. I'll look at that later. But yeah, for now we'll focus back on getting this. So we want to emphasize the fact that the outside is darker than the inside. And I think the main issue there is that the inside is quite saturated right now. So let's go and desaturate that quite a bit if we can. We did a little bit before, but let's go quite a bit with it. And lighten it up a bit as well. Actually, no, I don't like lightness. Lightness makes a nasty adjustments. Whoops. We definitely don't want to do that. That's just straight white now. Okay, so the center compared to the outside. So we desaturate that quite a bit, and that should give us a bit more control for the outside part now. And I'm going to adjust the levels on this to make it stronger, so that this mask has got a bit more to work with. So we just push everything more towards the black end of the spectrum. It should give us a bit more room to work with. So as an example, if we just change this colour quite extremely, so you can see how much of it it's affecting it. Just dial it back a bit. So now we're starting to get somewhere that I'm happier with. It still feels a bit saturated, but it's in a better position than it was. Does that make sense? Oh, this is the problem with the chocolate. This mask is too extreme, isn't it? Let me just check this. I'm sorry, I just disappeared into watermelon for a second there. I'm just quickly checking what this is doing. Okay, this is the mask that I want for the chocolate chips. So if I just duplicate this, wait. Oh man, things are not going to plan right now, are they? Okay. So yeah, I want to duplicate this, get it where it was before, when I had this set to add. And then that can be for the opacity. And then this new one is for the chocolate chips. So you want to invert the result of this by doing that. And then that's now inverted again. Oh wait, that's... Okay, folks. The invert's down there. Yeah, that's the invert. So it's already inverted. So folks, my brain has turned off. So what we want for this is we want the chips to be white. Let's do another invert grayscale here. There we go. Now we've not got this bleeding edge and we've not got the messed up chalky bits. Okay, that took way longer than expected. I had several brain farts whilst that was happening. But we're getting on track. Okay, so I think we're close to calling it for the first one just because it's a simple cookie. And like I said, we're not expecting the best materials in the world here, folks. We're just doing a quick bit of fun. A daily bit of fun. Keep us going. Get me back into Substance Designer because like I said, it's been a long time. So I'm just trying to get myself back into doing this, back into enjoying it. To be fair, I've never not enjoyed using Designer. It's such a fun package. It's got a bit of a steep learning curve to it, which I'm starting to feel a little bit now as I've not used it in a bit, so I'm trying to refresh myself. But if you ever want to see some true wizards at work using Substance Designer, I highly recommend you go take a look at Josh Lynch and Daniel Tiger. Those two guys are two of the best I've ever seen. Oh, and Jonathan Beninois. I'm sorry, Jonathan, I can't remember how you pronounce your surname. But he's also fantastic. He's just started at Naughty Dog. He used to work at Warner, I think, in Quebec. One of those. But yeah, those guys are fantastic. So we've got pretty much a cookie here. I'm more happy with it than I was before. But let's keep going. Let's keep pushing it for a little bit. Because I've not got loads of time left, but we've got a little bit of time left. So let's just, might as well use it, hadn't we? Right, so. I want to just do that, see what happens. Down a Fargo Rock. Right, so we want this peak to not be so peaky. What we can do is we can get a directional warp on the original shape. Oh, actually, wait. What did I used to do? You can... What did it do now? You can manipulate the shape. It is a directional warp, I think. Use a directional warp and you add another shape to it. I think that's right. Let's go for pill. Or capsule, sorry. Let's just adjust the size of this to make it 2. Then we can change the angle on this. I think this is how I did it. I can't remember now. It's been so long. Yeah, you can start to get like a little sort of notch going on it. And you can type higher numbers on this, by the way. It doesn't have to stop at 20, so you can set like 500. That's obviously insane. But yeah, you can get really interesting results like that. So maybe that's how we can get like a kind of a spiral situation going on. If I set this to like a half bell, that should give us more of an interesting shape. I'm going to adjust the scale of this half bell. We don't want it full. Another great thing about using procedural stuff is you can just go back and adjust things earlier. It's brilliant. So if I change the warp intensity, that's what it was like normally, and then you can see the points getting pushed and warped. That'll give us a slightly better result, I think. Change the angle of it a bit. It's not perfect, but I mean, that's obviously awful. But we're starting to get that kind of look that we're after, that kind of twisty, not twist, but like it's got a little bit of business going on with it. Let's just lower the height of the white on that. Lots of little adjustments. Yeah, when you're learning Designer as well, you rely a lot on happy accidents as it like a learning point. I quite like them drops though. They look like chocolate chips, more like chocolate chips to me than it did earlier. I like this lumpy boy, he's cool. Right, yes, okay. What I'm actually going to do as well, I think. Am I? No, I'll leave that for now as it is. I don't like the fact this has a base on it. I want that off. I can't remember how to do it. Which is fine. You forget stuff. Let's save that. And then just quickly check this to see if we can adjust that. That's gradients. Nope. Mask. Nope. Straight up. Oh, thank you. The lovely wife just opened the door so I don't die of heat exhaustion. Always a bonus. Alright, so where is it that controls the pig and floor? Okay, never mind. We'll figure that out for next time, folks. But yeah, so for now that's chocolate chip-ish. It's chocolate chip-esque, if you will. Now, what do we want to add to it? What do we want to change about it? That's the important thing. So let's look at our reference. So, chocolate chips, ours has chocolate chips. Although the chocolate chips there, they have a bit more variety in colour. They are fairly consistent, but there's still some variety. So let's go add a little bit of variety to colour in ours, because ours are just solid, uniform, that brown. What we can do is we can duplicate that. Create a blend node. Plug them both into it. And we can choose a type of procedural texture to blend between them. Normally it's a standard cloud or something like that, or a grunge mask of some variety. So I've got hiccups. I had 2.5 hot dogs for tea. I'm starting to feel it. Yes, so what can we use? Let's go. Oh, moisture. Moisture's a good one to use for this. See, because moisture's got kind of like patchy things to it, and the way chocolate kind of cools, it has that kind of slight patchiness to it. Let's just change a random seed. I never like using the default seed. I don't know why. So now obviously we've got the same colour twice. It's not going to make much difference. But if we adjust this, make it just slightly lighter, you see you start to get this variation going on, and it just helps change things from being so basic to being slightly variable, just a little bit. And we can adjust our roughness to emulate that as well, so it's not exactly the same all the way through. So see, at the moment these are all the same roughness, but chocolate chips don't have that. They have that kind of they have a little bit of variance going on. So what we can do, we can actually multiply this with our roughness that we've got for the chocolate chips here. So again, exactly the same method we've got up here, except we're going to use it this time for 2 of these. So one slightly less, one slightly rougher, only slightly, and then blend that and that, and then we'll literally use the same mask. So that way, if we make any adjustments to it, then it'll be it'll happen to this as well. And then get that there, replace that, and then we've got ourselves just a smidge of variation. See, you can just see a little bit there. I don't know if you can actually. Just a little bit of variation. You'd never really notice that, but it's a subtle things that help sell stuff like this. Oh, obviously not like this. This isn't a good piece. I wouldn't consider this like, you know, the best thing. This is just something that we're doing. But yeah, now what we want some. There's some drastically lighter parts in this cookie, so we want to try and emphasize them. So what I might do, I'll try and grab the. I'll grab the part before the chocolate chips, and I'm going to move. What did I just do? Okay, I'm going to move all these over a bit. I'm going to grab another blend node, I'm going to plug this in, get an HSL, good old HSL. This one is going to be quite desaturated. And then in here, we're going to make our own mask that's going to be a bit different. So I'm going to use the histogram shift. I forget, histogram shift? No, it's histogram range, I think. There's so many different things with the same name. You just forget what to do. Okay, so grab this before the chocolate chips. Yeah, so with this you can control how much the color range you're seeing and at what position you're at within that range. So I'm going to try and get the highest points. Is it range that I want? I wish I could remember this. I'm going to go the histogram scan again. I think it is a histogram scan. I must look like such a bumbling fool. But that's alright, you know, you don't do something for a while, you forget stuff. It's completely fine. So yeah, like we did before, this time I want to grab just the highest parts like this. And we're just going to use that as a mask. So you can't see much of a difference, but there's a little bit of difference here where there's like patches that go slightly saturated, desaturated even. Let's make it really strong so you can see there, see the difference there. If I was to apply that, it's quite a drastic difference. But we don't want it to be so drastic, obviously. Just do something like that. I'm going to adjust this because I don't like how much of the edges it's got involved. So what I can do with that actually is I can use a blend, plug this in here, and I'm going to grab the soft edge part. Actually, I'm going to grab this one because it's softer. Put it there, and I'm going to subtract that. So anything... wait, no, not subtract. Multiply. So it just softens off the edges a bit. Actually, I'll use this one. This one had a stronger influence, didn't it? Yeah. That's a bit better. So it's less extreme around the edges now. So then now if we plug that in. Yeah, see the way we've got like the whiter highlights on the edge? We don't want that. So I took them off. So now we've just got the highlighter parts in the middle. That'll make it all fun. I've just seen what that did. Okay. So we're getting closer. We're almost there. I think we just need some minor, like macro speckly details. So I'm going to go and grab... See, we're getting a bit messy now. I'm going to grab these. Just neaten things up a little bit. So I get really finicky with like setting up the grids and things. I think it's my own way of like procrastinating in my brain. It's like if you do this and you're not going to think about the next bit, because the next bit's hard, you know, stupid brain. Right, okay, so yeah, we've got that. So now let's go and add some macro details into this. I'm going to put that in a blend. Should I use the HSL again? It's getting kind of muddy now, but I might still use it. Let's just see. I'm going to attempt first just to blend a black and white spots on top. 2. I like 2. Oh yeah, if you can't plug a gradient into a color blend, so to fix that you can just use a gradient map and set it to color and it'll work for you then. If multiply that, reduce that quite a bit. So now we've gone from that to that, which is a lot specklier, if that's a word. And let's just see the result that has on the actual mesh here. Let's see what happens. So it's darken everything down. But what I like to do is I like to do that kind of thing, and then you can kind of refine the mask. So it's set to multiply, it's set quite low. If you set it full, obviously you'd see that, which isn't great. But see, you can use the full strength of the mask like that and then have it affect a colour on top. So I could use HSL, or I could use another uniform colour. So if I just went for uniform for now as an example, chose something like, you know, orangey gold, and I plug, so that looks bad obviously, and I plug the mask in there. So that's a grayscale again. I'll just plug that in. Yes, you can see the mask now. You've got the full range of the mask and it's controlling that colour, which might be more what you're after. Even though it's a horrific colour, it actually works pretty well. I just chose that as like a random colour, but I quite like it. But anyway, let's just try with the old standard HSL. Set to darken. It's a little bit darker. So that way you're getting the variation across the different pieces that should match underneath. So let's just look at the difference between those two. There's that, and there's that. So what we can do now, as a little test, just a little tweaky poo, is we can adjust the levels and stuff on this black and white spots. Now I don't often use levels for this, like I said, I normally use like histogram scan and stuff like that. If I just do that, it adds a bit more contrast to it, so it's a bit more extreme in spots, certain areas, than others. See, so now you can see if I just keep adjusting this, if I slide it one way. See that we're getting kind of like strange, like islands of adjustments, and I kind of like that, but it doesn't really look great right now. So then you can use that to control the mask, and then you can use the actual slider to control how much of it you use. So it's kind of a useful little feature. But we don't want to go too crazy with it. It kind of works though, but it kind of something about it I'm not liking. It's the strength, I think, the strength of the darkness on this. Actually might help to lighten. Not that much though, jeez. It's still set to multiply, which is kind of funny. It's meant to be set to copy this whole time. No wonder it looked weird. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So see that you get like little just islands of variation now? Breaks it up a bit more. So something like that would work, I think. Oh, it's Jack. Hey mate, you alright? Today we're making a cookie. See? It's a cookie, except it doesn't exist. It's just a texture. So I've made it through all these little nodes here. We started with a shape, and then I started adjusting that shape using different patterns and things, and eventually, after you've added all your stuff and your chocolate chips, you end up with a cookie. So this is actually just a texture on a shape. If I put it on a cube, you can see it's just a flat texture that's on there. It looks pretty cool like that actually. I've not been too happy with it for a while now, but it's looking okay. It's getting there. Because today's goal is just make a cookie. I think we've done an okay job for 2 hours work, because normally it takes longer than that to get a pretty decent material out of this. But I'm kind of happy with how it is. I'm sorry if you're not still here, Jack. I don't know when you sent your message. I've been so focused. There's a chance you've left by now, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm a bit happy with how it is now. So I might actually call it there for tonight, folks, because I don't want to keep tweaking it too much. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, because this is day 1 of November, so I'll quickly show you my November thing. Where are we? Yeah, so this is the list for November. So every day We get a different prompt based on a different thing. So today, week 1 is food, or the first 5 days is food, and today was cookie, so we made a cookie. Tomorrow is going to be candy. So yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to do for candy. That's going to be interesting. But we'll figure it out, won't we? We'll figure out when we get there. But I'm quite happy with cookie for now. What we could do, do I try something now that's a bit weird? Let's just quickly... I'm going to call this done for now. Let me just save before I cock everything up. Let me go back to main. There you go. Yeah, yeah, so let's call this done. But before I go, I want to just quickly test something. Just, it's fun to experiment, isn't it? So let me see. How am I going to do this? Tile sampler color. I never use this. Will this work? That's the question. Well, I want to get these working in here, so let's pretend that these are on a baking tray, right? Give it 3 by 3. Different rotations. Slightly different positions. Where's position gone? There it is. No, I don't like that. No, scrap that idea. I was going to maybe do some variants. Make a ceramic. Oh, a Karamak. I'm an idiot. Oh god, I just read that as make a ceramic. Make a Karamak. That is actually a pretty good idea, mate. I might do. Let's see how we get on tomorrow with that. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I think that's an okay cookie. Maybe we can quickly do something with the chocolate before we go, because it feels a bit too pristine. Let's introduce some bumps to the chocolate. We introduce some more bumps to the cookie. So let's do it to the chocolate now. So to do that, these are the chocolate chips here. Come on, load. These are the chocolate chips. So it should be fairly straightforward. I could add it to the shape here, but then they'd all have the same different variation to them. So I want to do it afterwards so that they've got some different variation to them. So I'm going to make a blend node, and I'm going to pop that on there. And then I'm going to get black and white noise again. This time I'm going to go for number 3 because it's a bit wider. It's less refined. And if I set that to multiply again, just reduce that a little bit, we should get little speckles on top. See, so we went from completely smooth to little speckles, and then we can again use like levels to refine that a bit more. Looks like a Subway cookie. Thank you, that's the plan. That's what I was going for. A nice tasty Subway cookie. I love those. They're my favourite ones, I think. Apart from Maynard's. Maynard's, that's the name of the company I couldn't think of before, folks. Maynard's cookies. The ones in the red packet, and I can't buy them because if I do, and that packet gets open, those cookies get eaten. That's how it works. The whole packet just goes. That's it. Nom nom nom. Bye. Alright, so let's see if this works now. We've got this. We've got this. Come on. Load for me. Smooth. Less smooth. Reduce that a bit more. Actually, I'm going to set to min darken because I want to see. Oh no. Let's tickle multiply. Okay, yeah, so let's just see how our slightly less perfect Chucky Chunks look. So see, smooth, tasty looking right now. Now let's adjust that, shall we? Boom. Too strong. Went too far. Let's reduce this. There you go. It's just a little less perfect. But I think that adds a bit of realism to it because chocolate gets that kind of like slightly porousness to it. Porosity. I said that before. It's not a word. See, like here, got this kind of stuff going on. Don't know if you can see that. Got this kind of thing going on here. So yeah, I'm happier with that than I was before. But I think it's probably a good place to leave it because I'm just going to keep faffing with it until it gets worse again. And we don't want that, do we, folks? So, yeah, I'll leave that there for now for tonight. So, let me just move on to my thingy for a second. We have got our little checklist over here. This is the whole list of all the nodes, all the prompts that we've got for this month to try and do. So every single day, almost every single day, I'm going to be on here streaming, trying to get this stuff done. As I said before, I do a podcast with my brother, so I can't do every single night. But on the days when I'm doing the podcast, I'm probably not going to stream, but I will still get the picture done. It's just probably going to be like at my lunchtime or something. And then, you know, in between recording the pod and whatnot. So I'll figure it out. But just don't expect to stream every single day, just most days. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. It makes sense to me. So today, that means we can tick off Cookie, I think. Can we agree? We can tick off Cookie for today. So just give me a second. Boom. We have ticked off Cookie. Awesome. That is one down and only 29 more to go. 29. Maryland cookies. That's it. What did I call them? Marshalls? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so that's it, folks. We're done. I think that's us for the day. That was a better result than I was expecting earlier on. It will be better in the future. Like I said, I'm relearning this software. I've not used it in pig ages. So I'm going to have to relearn my tips and tricks. I'll read through my notes. I'll try and figure out what I used to know and get back to it. But on that note, thanks a lot for 29. An easy number. Yes, easy number. Why not? 29. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, by the end of this, we're going to be absolutely smack banging at Substance Designer again. But thanks a lot for watching. Go and, well, what can you do? I don't know. Go and watch Daniel Tiger and Josh Lynch that I was talking about. They're fantastic at Substance Designer. And keep an eye on everybody's Nodevember things for Twitter and whatnot. It's hashtag Nodevember or hashtag Nodevember20. It's in the title for this. So thanks a lot for watching, folks. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.